So, Naomi and I have recently been watching The Orville. Yes, I know. And the episode Majority Rule came up. Majority Rule features a planet with a 21st century level of development, ruled by an absolute democracy form of government. In other words, every single bit of government action is decided on by referendum, and because the entire planet consists of one nation-state, every single person can cast their vote on every single topic. In their culture, the truth of a subject is whatever won the popular vote. And just in case you really needed the cultural commentary hammered home, every single person is legally required to wear a badge on their shirt consisting of upvote and downvote buttons that other people can push if they've done something good or bad.
What do you give to Grandma?
Thank you.
Oh, good girl. That's it.
Oh, what'd you do? I'm really sorry. I wasn't looking.
Politicians are seen on TVs in the background of the episode, hitting up talk shows in order to pitch their ideas to the public. However, this process governs not only the creation of law, but also its application. A picture of two men on a bus not noticing that they should be giving up their spot to a pregnant woman beside them goes viral. These men subsequently receive over 1 million downvotes. When they reach 10 million, one of the men is corrected. The other decides to run and is shot instead. Okay, so this is Seth MacFarlane's show here. This isn't exactly the deepest examination of our social media-centered culture. I think we all understand what's going on here. In fact, I was personally more reminded of China's social credit scheme, where people who don't act like good citizens have their rights restricted, even if they haven't actually broken any laws or done anything immoral. The radical left seems to believe that a social credit type system is a needed component in the West, which is a topic I've already covered, and is also probably why they regularly praise China for implementing it. It's also why their arguments always boil down to, it's not illegal, but, or it's free speech, but they don't understand that we don't want the state legislating morality, not only because of the subjective components of morality, but also because of what the government after they leave office will do with that power. There's a lot of things that are and should be both immoral and still legal. Hell, there are things that are unhealthy, yet still legal, and should be. But the ending shot of Majority Rule features a character having changed her mind about her planet's system of governance after her encounter with the Orville's crew, turning her TV off and refusing to participate in the voting system. When at the beginning of the episode she was happy to do her part in sentencing the two men for correction without even knowing their stories, admitting that she just did it because they look creepy.
You have the breakfast show on? Yeah, but I missed the first part. What'd they do? That one guy has really weird eyes.
The parting message, to me, is obvious. Social media is rotting all of our brains, sure. But more importantly, that mob rule is a terrible way to run things, and never actually metes out justice. The truth isn't defined by majority opinion, or by the opinions of those in power, or even in some cases, by the opinions of the experts in the field. The truth just is, in a sense. And the authority of those groups can't make a false statement true, no matter how well-meaning they act. When a video of an Orville crew member humping a statue goes viral, he gets a, get this, publicity officer, and is forced to go on an apology tour in an effort to garner upvotes. It's entirely fitting that the shows he's a guest on look like both The View and a hodgepodge of various late-night comedy shows, run by celebrities with the proper politics and the perfect canned responses, willing to chastise him in their own interview of him, with no hint of objectivity in their line of questioning. It's equally fitting that this entire sequence plays out like every single social justice cuck who gets caught doing something untoward and has to beg their audiences for forgiveness while talking about how truly woke and progressive they are. Kinda like Egoraptor recently due to his whole thing. If you don't know what happened there, Egoraptor used to be a Newgrounds-centered animator who made edgy humor and became quite popular for being funny and talented. He's used racial slurs in the past as part of his humor.
Well, Axel dropped a lot of N-bombs back in the day, so I've never really been a fan of his either.
Well, that makes sense. How did he get away with that? I just can't imagine the context of, like, this super white dude just dropping N-bombs in a fucking rock and roll song. Seems a little inappropriate.
I'm still trying to think of the most racist thing I've ever done. There's gotta be something. Okay. We were.
You dropped someone off who was black. You had to say like nigger like 30 times.
Oh, yeah.
To get out of your system.
Fuck anime niggers.
I'll take care of them, nigga. HXC. Yeah, for real, niggas.
Damn right, nigga.
Yo, nigga. We got to get out of here, B. I got me some metal arm action shit, dog. Damn, artificial arm, cornrows. Bitch, I'm gonna tuck it out, bitch, fucking for the shit, dog.
Give it up, motherfucker, let me tell you a tale about a nigga named me gonna fucking...
And he's admitted to surfing that lovable cesspool known as 4chan.
It's like I go to V sometimes, I go to Co sometimes, and I go to Reddit sometimes. It's like
I don't go to V. I don't understand V, so I don't go there. But like I don't have anything against it. I know some depraved shit happens on 4chan though.
Depraved shit happens everywhere in the world, John.
But like many other edgy content creators from 10 years ago, he has since morphed into a spineless baby who completely disavows his old actions, his old works, his old communities, and his old friends, and now spends time on social media shaming others for doing what he used to do. Now that he's made his fame, the methods he used should be entirely shut off from those coming up behind him because he now thinks they're problematic. So when Sir Pilo released a viral video making fun of a subcommunity on YouTube called The Storytime Animators, Egoraptor chimed in talking about how the video was hurtful, despite him creating far worse in his prime, and the entire internet turned around and dragged him for it. Egoraptor's subsequent and predictable apology didn't even talk about what he actually said regarding Sir Pilo's video. It was simply an apology for all the stuff he did a decade ago, which people had been bringing up to highlight how much of a hypocrite he really was. And that's kind of the point here, isn't it? Egoraptor didn't say a goddamn thing about the actual issues people have with him, selling out his old values, becoming a cuck, virtue signaling and slagging others for doing what he once did, abandoning his old haunts and turning on his old friend groups after he finally made it big, and instead spent all of his time apologizing for his past actions, when those past actions aren't actually all that questionable in context. In the Orville, the apology tour is entirely fabricated as well. The publicity agent just sets it up and instructs our guy to tell blatant lies in order to save face and garner some upvotes. The difference between Egoraptor and Majority Rule is that in Majority Rule, the stakes are significantly higher. But some people online act like the stakes really aren't, and this is where we finally get to the title of the video, the downvote button itself. Since the start of 2019, there's been this weird push to not only get rid of the downvote buttons on YouTube and Facebook, but also the like button on Twitter, or hell, even the follower counts on those sites. I mean, I can see why the SJWs would want this, because they get ratioed constantly. Look at stuff like YouTube Rewind, or the Diablo Immortal trailer, or anytime an SJW idiot drops a retarded take on Twitter. Mass downvotes and only a few upvotes. Or, in Twitter's case, thousands of replies and retweets, with only tens of likes. If you're somebody who doesn't want to know when people disagree with you, if you're somebody that doesn't want the world to inform you that you have failed, then yes, getting ratioed is probably uncomfortable. It probably feels like harassment. Of course, what it actually is the plebs letting you know that despite all of your power and influence, the masses do not agree with you. They're not willing to do what you say, and they would rather revolt against you. And let's be honest, to the tyrant, a peasant revolt probably feels similar to harassment, because the tyrant believes it's the natural order for them to be in charge. Just so we're clear, yes, I'm making a direct comparison to the obstinate child that plugs their ears and the dictator who oppresses the people with an iron fist. Those two creatures are connected by their mutual disdain for reality's tendency to rebel against their impositions. And I would go so far to say that this recent push to abolish the ways in which people can have their say, from disabling comments or voting on both news sites and left-leaning YouTube channels, to agitating for the blanket removal of those features from all of social media, to the removal of any objective metric of popularity, in order to blanket everyone in a great equalization, or even worse, to only push approved sources, is yet another way the idea of the obstinate child tyrant is being expressed in the modern world, albeit less harshly. But that's why the Orville made it a life and death situation in their commentary. Because not only was it once one in years past, but because that's how these people view it. I mean, why do you think that people like Mundane Matt or Woz Lee want the dislike button removed from YouTube entirely? Especially when they have the option to simply disable it on their own channels. Why do you think Anita Sarkeesian or Lindsay Ellis simultaneously treat their own audiences with disdain, while also talking about how terrified they are of them? Of course, you can go on Twitter and find examples of people wanting a dislike button on the platform, but only in relation to owning one of Donald Trump's tweets, or brigading opponents of their own political opinions or something. If Twitter did actually have a dislike button, these people would be really happy with it until they notice that a chunk of the population disagrees with them and are willing to click a button to show it. Then the conversation would be all about demanding its removal again. The tyrant believes that their rule is what nature intended. The would-be tyrant believes that the people secretly wish for their rule, while chafing against the regime of a different tyrant. And they both inevitably turn towards suppression when this idea is shown to be false. It's why governments around the world put down people by the millions. It's also why every single person I've spoken about today, and many, many more I have not yet discussed, wants their audience to have less of a voice and not more. It's the heart of the don't question it, just consume product and then wait for the next product meme. It's also why that meme was called racist and sexist and whatever. That meme sarcastically sums up everything I've been talking about this entire video, and the social justice reaction to that meme's traction only proves it to be true. I brought up China's social credit system earlier because the radical left is beginning to realize that if Western governments won't do it, then business, academia, and social media should in its stead. When your workplace has diversity councils willing to police your behavior both on and off the clock. When your school has diversity officers willing to police your behavior both on and off campus. When social media has a terms of service willing to police your speech both on and off platform, the government doesn't need to get involved. The social credit system is already in place. And if you want to see the intended end result of that policy, just take another look at the corrected individual from the Orville.
Louis, thank God. Are you all right?
I am well.
Don't you recognize me? It's Claire.
Of course. Claire, you look healthy and happy.
Louis, I need to know, what did they do to you?
I did something terrible, and then I was corrected. I'm better now. I'm healthier and happier.
Louis, is there anything you can tell us about that planet that might help us repair the damage they did to you?
There is no damage. I'm healthy and happy.
But what about Tom? Louis, they killed him. My God, his family.
Please tell Tom's family I wish them great happiness and good health.
Captain, it's like he's been lobotomized. There's nothing I can do. The brain damage is too severe.
In the show, it's a literal lobotomy, but in real life, it's a moral lobotomy. They don't necessarily care if this is how we think, although if they can force us to think like this, all the better. But their main goal is to get us to present like this, to cleanse all of society such that only happiness and health remains, despite any evidence to the contrary. To compete in the Grand Virtue Signal Olympics, to perform and watch others perform in turn, in the hopes that if we swallow enough bullshit we'll come to believe it. Well, I refuse. I don't care how many people hate me over it. I will always choose flawed freedom over sanitized slavery.